After securing the main track template to the inside face of a box side with adhesive transfer tape, I place the router's 3/8 inch OD guide bushing at the top of the track and plunge the 1/4 inch spiral bit into the wood. I then slowly work my way around the template, making sure to keep the guide bushing in firm contact with its edge. When I reach the end of the template's narrow channel, I raise the bit and shut off the router. But before repeating the process on the other box side, I draw a fine pencil line at the angled bottom end of the template. This line is for positioning the second template, which routes the Tambour's escape track. The edge of this template overhangs the flat bottom of the box side by 3/8 of an inch. After clamping the assembly to the bench top, I route this section of track using the same router bit and bushing combination I used for the main track. I then repeat the entire track routing procedure on the other box side.
When the routing is done, I sand each of the tracks thoroughly to assure that the finished tambour will slide smoothly.
The first step in creating the tambour slats is to resaw a couple of 4/4 boards in half on the bandsaw. After cross-cutting each resawn piece to final slat length, I plane each one down to a thickness of 3/16 of an inch. Instead of ripping each slat to width individually, I gang cut 4 at a time by temporarily taping the 4 resawn boards together using adhesive transfer tape. I then carefully rip my slat sandwich into 1/2 inch strips on the table saw, using a good quality thin curved blade that leaves smooth cut edges. After ripping is done, I separate the slats in each strip, then rub off the gummy adhesive transfer tape with my fingers. Next, I build the frame used for assembling the slats into the tambour by nailing strips of 1/2 inch MDF to a baseboard. I start with the top strip, then add the side strips, taking care to make sure they'll be square with the top. I use a slat to make sure the inside of the frame is exactly as wide as the slats are long. Now I select 21 of my straightest and best looking slats and arrange their final order on a piece of stiff cardboard with the good sides facing up. After straightening up the assembly, I temporarily tape one edge of the slats down. Then I use another piece of stiff cardboard to flip the entire slat assembly upside down. Now I load the slats in order into my MDF frame, making sure to keep their reverse sides facing up. When I get to the end, I put in one more slat that I've covered with tape so glue won't stick to it. I then use 3 small pairs of wedges to press the slats tightly together. To create the necessary pressure, I drive each wedge pair tightly together using a small mallet. Then I use a mallet and a scrap block to gently pound the slats flat in the frame. Now I apply a liberal amount of glue to the back of the slats, then spread it evenly with a rubber roller. I set the cut piece of canvas duck fabric that will act as the tambour's flexible backing on top of the glued slats. After carefully positioning it, I press it flat, first with my fingers, then with the rounded edge of my scrap block. To help the glue set quickly and prevent it from seeping between the slats, I iron the back of the canvas with a household iron that's been adjusted to a medium setting. It's important to keep the iron moving and not press too hard. After letting the tambour set for 10 minutes or so, I remove it from the frame. Then carefully flex the seams between each of the slats, just in case the yellow glue has crept in and cemented them together. Now with the tambour upside down on the bench, I trim away the excess canvas near the edges with a razor blade. I use the blade to help lift the trim canvas strip so I can peel it off and leave a nice clean edge. Next, I trim off the ends of the last tambour slat to provide the necessary clearance where it will attach to the back of the drawer. I then glue a trim strip to the slat at the front edge of the tambour to give it a more finished look. After pressing the strip's routed channel onto the slat, I press it on by tapping it gently with a mallet. Rounding the front edges of the first slat will help the tambour travel more smoothly in its track. To begin sanding the tambour, I first lightly sand the edge of each slat by bending the canvas at each juncture. Now I use an orbital sander to level and smooth the face of the tambour and ease the edges that will slide in the track. Rubbing a bit of paraffin wax onto the ends of the slats helps lubricate them so that they'll slide more smoothly. In preparation for attaching the tambour to the drawer, I dry assemble the box. Slide the drawer in place. Then I invert the entire thing on the bench top. Now I take the tambour and fit its front end into the escape track. Then slide it fully into the box until the cap strip on the first slat makes firm contact with the top of the drawer front. I press the last slat tight against the drawer, then I drill countersunk holes through the slat into the bottom edge of the drawer's back. I then drive flathead screws into each of the holes I've drilled, making sure that each screw head is driven completely flush with the surface of the slat. Now all that remains is to test the tambour, to see that it slides easily and fluidly when the box's drawer is opened and closed.